Metal Leute. Ever since Battlefield 3 came out in 2011, it had problems with cheaters. This is not a surprise, because no other game that is out has a decent anti-cheat solution. No developer figured out how to get rid of cheaters in an effective manner yet. Every single shooter game that I've ever played has problems with cheaters. Battlefield 3 is particularly bad though, because it is an EA game. EA, as we all know, does not care about their players and the satisfaction that they get from playing their games. All they want is the money, and if the game is selling, then they are happy with it. They do not care that you have a horrible experience in the game, and the recent Battlefield games like 2042 or BF5 show this with a great detail. So, what is left is for the community to rule out cheaters and to create servers in which cheaters can't play. Obviously, this has more problems with it, because if an admin is to decide who is cheating or not, it will lead to an admin banning people from his server that are not cheating and just legitimately better than them. This has also been a problem for a long time and is nothing new. The real problem comes from people that are cheating, but do it in a manner that is not completely blatant and not obvious. Obviously, these people aren't really good, and there's a reason they need to cheat. The reason they need to cheat is because they're shit at the game, and their cheat just makes them marginally better. The result of this is that they are not getting banned from community servers because the admins are non-suspicious, because they're just not good enough to be considered a cheater. Usually you can never find out that these players are cheating. It's just simply impossible, because when they are not completely rage hacking, it is not really possible to tell that anything is going on. Some people will go a step further with this, and they will cheat live on stream. This makes it possible to actually see their cheats and what has been used. This is obviously maximum level of dumbness, and these people are simply retarded. But there are some stupid morons out there that do it. One such case of a brain-dead simpleton who decided to cheat on his stream live is AustrianFarmer. He was using a damage hack live on his stream, and it is provable. This video will cover all of this. It will show every bit of evidence that I have gathered over the last couple of weeks. It will compile this into a comprehensive video. Originally, I did not want to make this video public. I have already created 2 of these videos that have been uploaded to this channel as unlisted and only for certain people to see. However, since I have made these and uploaded them, I have showed them to certain and selected people. What has come from this is nothing short of egregious. As you will see, and as I will prove with chat history logs, there has been multiple attempts for me getting him banned from multiple servers, because that was my original intention. I wanted him to think about what he's doing, and that his actions have consequences, and that he shouldn't use a damage hack live on stream. For this reason, I have showed this video that I've made to admins. None of the admins that I've showed this video to have taken action yet and have banned him. Some even replied, and still nothing has come of it. This is nothing short of egregious, and even solid evidence, as you will see in this video, is not being recognized. Admins just don't care. What's even more disgusting is the fact that I have not only showed this to admins, but also some of his friends. This will get its own section at the end of the video, and it will contain all the information and all of the egregious things that happened live on his stream. AustrianFarmer has been a guy that I've known for a long time, and I've never come suspicious of him. I knew that he was recently starting to stream more Battlefield on Twitch, and I was watching it, sometimes. When I was watching, I never actually suspected a thing, until just recently. In a recent stream of his, I've seen him shoot somebody with a 44 Magnum, at relatively close distance. He did 85 damage over a distance of 32 meters. First, let's look at the clip.
Oh, you saved him, what the fuck? Oh, it was a headshot, 85.
The first thing to consider when figuring out how much damage a weapon should be doing at any given distance is look at the weapon stats on sim.gg. Sim.gg is great because it provides accurate data for all of the weapons in Battlefield 3. They don't even have to guess the information, they get them straight from the game files. It even includes a data browser, where you can look at the game files yourself and find this information all on your own if you know how to read a little bit of program code. For this video I will show this graph right here. It contains all of the necessary information that we need to find out which damage should have been done at any given distance. This graph immediately reveals important information. The most important information is that the damage fall-off over distance is linear. For this reason, we can use a linear interpolation function to work out the damage along this line. We don't have to guess it. This graph also provides us with all of the necessary information to fill in the equations. We know the minimum and maximum damage, it's 30 and 60 respectively. It also tells us the distances at which the minimum damage is reached and at which distance the damage fall-off starts to begin. It begins at 12.5 meters and ends at 50. This is all the information that we need to figure out the damage along this line. Now with that out of the way, we can think about the case for AustrianFarmer. As there is damage fall-off in Battlefield 3, we need to know the precise distance that he was away from the opponent. Unfortunately, Battlefield 3 does not provide you with any means of figuring out the distance between two players directly. You can, however, figure it out by using a little bit of trigonometry and recreating the situation in a server. Don't worry, this will be exact, as you will see in a little bit of time. To make this video understandable, even for a layman, I will now start with leaving the distance calculation out of the way. First, I will only focus on the linear interpolation function. The damage d over any given distance is some value x for the distance times minimal damage plus 1 minus x times the maximum damage. X in this case is a substitute for a normalized value between 0 and 1. You will see in a moment why this is important and why we need to do this. Let us start with a simple example. Let's say the enemy is at a distance of 12.5 meters, and using only this formula, we want to find out how much damage should have been done at this distance. We know from the graph with 100% certainty that the damage should equate to 60. Let's see if we can use this function to figure out this damage value. Right off the bat, we can insert a lot of information in here. We know that the minimum damage from the Magnum is 30 and the maximum damage is 60. Sim.gg tells us this pretty clearly. Now we need only one more value. The value for x. X is a normalized value between 0 and 1. To normalize the value for any given distance, we use this formula here. The website from sim.gg also tells us all of the information that we need for this equation. We know the damage drop of start, it's 12.5 meters. We also know the damage drop of end, it is 50 meters. Now all there's left to do is fill in the value for the distance. As I said, I want to make the example for 12.5 meters. So let's insert 12.5 for distance. That leaves us with this equation, which we should easily be able to solve for x without using a calculator. 12.5 minus 12.5 is 0, and 0 divided by anything is always 0. This means that the value for x is 0. Let's keep the value of 0 in mind and return to the first equation. All we need to do here is now insert 0 for x. 0 times 30 is 0, 1 minus 0 is 1, and 1 times 60 is 60. 0 plus 60 is 60. So the damage value for a distance of 12.5 meters must be 60. This means that the equation we are using is working, and it predicts the damage values for any given distance accurately. The attentive viewer now has probably recognized that we will need the exact distance between two players to fill into the normalization equation right here. As I said earlier, there is sadly no means in Battlefield 3 to determine the distance between two players directly. we have to derive it. Luckily, we can easily derive it by using some basic observations and a little bit of trigonometry. If we could construct a triangle which we know two angles and one side of, we could use the law of sines to determine the two remaining sides. Let's start by drawing a triangle, and then we will fill the information as we go. Let's place ourselves on the Norcia-Chnanel's conquest match in the exact position that AustrianFarmer was standing in, and look at the A flag. The distance towards the A flag is 61 meters. This allows us to fill in the side C. When looking at the original clip of his, and then pausing it exactly in the moment when he is shooting the weapon, we know that from looking at the compass he is looking at a bearing of 134 degrees. The bearing towards the A flag from this exact same position is 177 degrees. The difference between these two bearings gives us angle alpha. It's 43 degrees. Now let's place ourselves on the point C, the enemy position, and work out angle gamma. The bearing from the opponent towards AustrianFarmer should be the inverse of AustrianFarmer to the enemy. We have already determined that the bearing from AustrianFarmer towards the opponent was 134 degrees. The inverse of this is 314 degrees. Comparing this with the in-game observation tells us that this checks out. This is how we know that we are standing in the correct place here. From this position, the bearing towards the A flag is 210 degrees. The differences between these two bearings gives us angle gamma. It's 104 degrees. This information would already be enough to determine the distance between AustrianFarmer and the opponent. However, let's first cross-check if we are actually standing in the correct location or not. Using the law of sines, we can figure out the length of the side A, which in this case resembles the distance from flag A towards the opponent. We can cross-check this with the in-game observations. Solving for A gives us a value of approximately 42.889. I'm saying approximately because I've rounded this to the third decimal. The in-game observations shows us a distance from the flag of 43 meters. 42.8 is rounded up by the game logic, so this makes perfect sense and checks out perfectly. We are standing in the exact correct location. To determine the remaining side B, we can also use the law of sines. To apply the law of sines, we need the angle beta. Since we've already determined that we are standing in the correct locations, we don't even need to place ourselves on the flag A and look at the bearings ourselves. We can simply make use of the fact that the inside angles of a triangle have to add up to 180 degrees. Since we already know two angles of this triangle, we can easily calculate the third. It's 33 degrees. With this information, we can now derive the length of the side B by using the law of sines again. Crunching the numbers, we get a value for B of approximately 34.273 meters. I say approximately again because I've rounded this to the third decimal too. Remember that we have defined the distance between AustrianFarmer and the opponent as side B, and now that we have found out the length of side B, we know exactly how far away AustrianFarmer was standing from the opponent. 34 meters. Let's use 34 meters for the next calculations. Remember that we want to find out how much damage AustrianFarmer should have done in the clip I showed earlier. Remember that we wanted to use this formula right here. It requires the value x. X is a normalized value between 0 and 1. To determine x, we need to insert the distance in this equation, which we can now do since we have just determined the distance. Remember that we already know most of these values. Damage drop of start is 12.5 and damage drop of end is 50 meters. All we need to do now is insert 34.273 for the distance. Therefore, the approximate value of x is 0.581. I say approximate again because, as with all the other numbers, I've rounded it to the third decimal. Let's keep this value in mind and return to the original interpolation function. We now have all of the necessary information to fill out this whole equation. Minimum and maximum damage are still 30 and 60 respectively. We can fill this in. For x we can now insert 0.581. Solving for d gives us the final answer. The damage at a distance of 34 meters is 42.57. We are not quite done here though. Battlefield 3 uses a damage multiplier system on its own without using external cheat programs. As you can see in this graphic, weapons are categorized into 3 different categories. There are standard multipliers which apply to basically every single weapon in the game. The only exceptions is if you are using a revolver, a sniper or a shotgun. Then the second column is applied. Only if you are using an M98B, then the third column is applied. AustrianFarmer was using the 44 Magnum. It's a revolver. The second column applies. Let's use the values in this second column to work out every possible damage that could have been done at a distance of 34 meters. Let's start with the headshot multiplier. As you can see, it's 2.4. Let's call this value h, and to find it we need to multiply the base damage d with a factor of 2.4. Therefore, a headshot would have done a damage of 102.17. As is stated by sim.gg, the player health is 100%. If the damage inflicted to you is higher than 100, you will die. This means that if he would actually have hit a headshot at this distance, the opponent would have immediately died. It would not have mattered how much HP he had beforehand. He would have been killed instantaneously, as the damage inflicted was greater than 100. However, as we can clearly see from the clip, the opponent was not killed. It could therefore not have been a headshot. Let's now consider the second option, a shot to the upper chest. Looking at the clip, this is the most likely one. As with a headshot, we can determine the damage to the upper chest, let's call it U, by using the base damage D and multiplying it with 1.25. A shot to the upper chest would therefore have done a damage of 53.21. This is not what we observe in the clip, in which he got a damage value of 85. Looking at the other two options, the attentive viewer can already tell where this is going. Let's consider the lower chest. This is using a damage multiplier of just 1x. This means that the base damage is applied and not modified at all. A shot to the lower chest would do 42.57 damage. Shooting somebody in the legs modifies the base damage by a factor of 0.91. To find G, we multiply the base damage D by 0.91, which results in a damage to the legs of 38.74. This inevitably brings us to the only logical conclusion of the segment. None of these values resemble anything close to 85. Standard game values and modifiers prohibit a value of 85. It's simply impossible. In my opinion, a damage modifier must have been used, because achieving 85 damage over a distance of 34 meters is otherwise completely impossible. What you have just seen in the last chapter was the evidence that I've presented in my first video that remains unlisted on this channel. There have been concerns uttered for my first video. Two of the concerns are actually valid, and I will address them in this chapter. The first concern that I want to address is the one that AustrianFarmer made himself, when he was discussing the allegations with a friend of his.
Maybe it's bugged, maybe I hit him before, I don't know.
He is making the argument that he might have hit him before and that it might be a bug. Both of these can be ruled out. When I watched his stream and I noticed that the damage value of 85 was completely impossible, I made sure that I have recorded a good amount of time before he actually got the clip. I have showed this in the first section. There is no way he shot the opponent beforehand. There is just nothing happening before and no interaction with the opponent has been seen before. The second concern he's having is that it could be a bug. There's two approaches to why this can be ruled out immediately. One of them is by just brute force testing, and the other one is by logically thinking about it. To understand why it could not have been a bug, we need to understand how the game's netcode is working. If you want to go really in-depth of how games' netcodes are usually working, you can watch videos from Battle Nonsense. He made great explanations of how the games work. For this explanation I will keep it a little bit shorter, because explaining everything in great detail would be absolutely out of the scope of this video. As with many games, Battlefield 3 is using a client-side but server-authoritative hit detection system. One of the most important features of this netcoding implementation is that the client is never trusted with performing actions that impact the game. Counting as impacting the game is everything that an opponent would see. For example, if you start moving, an opponent could see that. Therefore, movement is not trusted by the client. If you want to be moving within the game world, the server first has to authorize this movement and make sure that it is correct and could have happened. For fast-paced shooter games, this poses somewhat of a problem. Let's say you are playing the game with a little bit of a higher ping. For example, 100 milliseconds. 100 milliseconds, I assume, is the round trip time, also called RTT. This includes the latency towards the server and back towards your client.
If you now wanted to move across the map, you would press your W key to move forwards. It would take this data 50 milliseconds to reach the server. The server then has to calculate if your movement actually makes sense and if you could have moved that way. After the server has calculated your movement and confirmed it to be correct, it would send a confirmation packet back to your client that you have actually moved forwards. This takes another 50 milliseconds. Let's say in an ideal world the server has no processing delay, so the only delays involved is the 50 milliseconds towards the server and the 50 milliseconds back. In this ideal world scenario, it would still take 100 milliseconds before you could see that you have actually pressed W on your keyboard. The same is true for the other way around. Let's say you wanted to stop on a dime and you couldn't do it. It would take 50 milliseconds for the information to arrive at the server that you have actually stopped moving, and then it would take another 50 milliseconds for the server to confirm that you've stopped moving, and the information travels back to you within 50 milliseconds. It would take exactly 100 milliseconds for your client to actually stop moving if this netcode style was implemented this way. For a fast-paced shooter, this is obviously terrible and is not really responsive. Therefore, means of rectifying this problem have been applied. This is where client-sided prediction is coming in. Client-sided prediction allows your client to make the movement inputs, for example, instantaneously. If you press W, your client predicts the movement, and therefore you are moving instantaneously without any processing delay from the server. In most cases, this works flawlessly. However, there can be cases where the client and server worlds disagree with each other. For example, you want to move forwards in your client and there's nothing in the way. You can move forwards on your client, but on the server there's an obstacle there that would not let you move past it. There's a disagreement between client and server, so even if the pathway is clear for your client and you could theoretically move there, the server won't let you, because there is an obstacle in the way. A good example of this client-server disagreement is this clip that I recorded some time ago in Battlefield 1. As you can see, this gate is open for my client. However, the server disagrees, and for the server, the gate is closed. On my client, I should be able to run through this. There's nothing stopping me in the way. You can see that my client is trying to predict the movement, which is why I am ahead of this gate by a little bit all the time. However, once the information that I wanted to move through this gate has reached the server corrects my position backwards. If my ping was higher, I would be able to move further through the gate before the server corrects it. This is a classic case of client-server disagreement. What I want you to take away from this is the following. As you can see, even though for my client there's a clear pathway right here, I can't move through it. The reason for this is the server authoritative side of the netcoding implementation. The server always has authority over your client. You can never do something that the server doesn't approve of. Your actions, if it is wrong, will always be corrected by the server and what the server sees. There's simply no way to circumvent this. The server always will have the authority over you. Even if your client is predicting stuff, it will never have the authority over the server, and wrong predictions will just simply be discarded by the server once the information from the server is arriving. The hit detection works with the exact same principle. What you've probably seen a lot of times is something called ghosting. It is especially prominent with jets and helicopters when they are shot by tanks or RPGs. What you will notice is that, for example, when you shoot a helicopter with a tank, the animation for the helicopter taking damage is played. There are sparks flying and maybe there's even an explosion happening. However, there's no hit marker present, and the helicopter will not die from your shot, even though it clearly hit the helicopter. The reason this is happening is precisely the same as with the movement bug that I just showed you. Your client has prediction. It predicts that the shot should hit the helicopter, because for your client, the helicopter is directly in the path of your projectile. The animation is playing that displays the explosion and the hit. However, server side, the helicopter is in a completely different position. You have therefore not hit it, and your hit on the helicopter that has been predicted client-sided is being rejected by the server. What is the case for tanks and helicopters is the same for weapons and soldiers. When you shoot someone, there are blood splatter effects, and these are predicted client-sided. Because these are predicted client-sided, they are not authoritative. When you see blood splatter, it does not mean that your hit has actually been confirmed. The damage calculation is entirely done server-sided. We know for certain fact that this has to be the case if we take another look at the Battlefield 1 server client disagree clip. There is one scene in here that reveals how the hit detection in Battlefield is usually done. Right here I'm going prone with the Panzerbüchse, which is an explosive device, in front of this gate. As we determined earlier, this gate is open for me, but it is closed server-sided. This has some simple implications. My client sees this gate as open. If I shoot my Panzerbüchse against it, it should pass straight through it, and it should not deal explosive damage to myself. If my client was in the authoritative position, it would inform the server that the shot has passed through this gate, and I should not receive damage. Contrary to this, if a server authoritative system was in place, the shot would rebound on this gate that is closed server-side. It would deal explosive damage to myself and I would be left on low HP. Depending on what is happening, we can either confirm or deny that the server authoritative aspect of the netcoding is in place or not. As we can see, I am left on 62 HP from this explosion that was my Panzerbüchse. If we slow it down enough and look very precisely, we can see that the shot is actually traveling through this gate in my point of view. It's impacting somewhere behind there on this tower. What you are seeing is client prediction at work. My client predicts that this shot should pass through this gate, which is open, and impact the tower back there. If my client would be in charge of the situation and would simply inform the server of what's happening, it would not have dealt damage to myself, because there would be no reason for damage to be dealt to myself. My bullet impacted back there on the tower. There's no reason for me to take damage. However, I did take damage. My client calculation is wrong, and it is corrected by the server. Therefore, I'm left on 62 HP. Let's replace the tower in the backdrop with something more interesting. A tank, for example, or a person. On my client, I would have seen blood splatter effects for a person, or the explosion effect for a tank. This is simply client predicted, and not really indicative of what is actually happening. I would have seen blood splatter or explosions, but I would not have received a hit marker. The opponent wouldn't even know that I would have shot at him. This clip is a beautiful example what happens when your client is messing up. What is true for the Panzerbüchse in Battlefield 1 is also true for every other Battlefield game that uses this style of netcoding, including Battlefield 3. There is simply no way for the client to bug out and deal more damage without the server noticing and rejecting the hit or correcting the damage value to the correct amount. This was the logical way of thinking about this. If you are not really convinced yet, you can also try this by using just simple brute force. You can shoot yourself over and over and over again with the 44 Magnum, and you will see that the damage will always be correct. I have done this in the past. Here's the video in the background playing right now. It is sped up, but I can link you to the original video that I uploaded to my channel. You can set that one to 0.25 speed and it will play in real time. Out of the 108 times that I have shot myself, I inflicted more damage than what was predicted 0 times. This is exactly what is happening when a server authoritative system is in place. It is simply impossible. Please be aware that I have shot myself at a distance of 32 meters. This is because of a simple math error that I made in the first video. I came to a conclusion that the distance was 32 meters, which was wrong. It's 34. However, this does not make a noticeable difference. The values are still far enough away from 85 that this can be ruled out as the source for the wrong damage value. If a bug was actually present in the chnanel's 85 clip, it would certainly have come up in the 108 times that I shot myself. It didn't, because there is no such a bug. His excuse is bullshit. Before we continue with a bunch of other clips showing the exact same bullshit behavior of his, I want to address something else.
Damage mod would look way different, man. If I would have a damage mod, I would have one-hit him with body.
Yes, you heard that correctly. In the world of our Austrian friend, it would not make sense to use a damage mod and not crank it up to just 100% and instantaneously one-shot every person on the server. If you have a damage mod, you must be rage hacking. Right?
Wrong.
What he fails to consider is that you could actually set a damage mod to any arbitrary value. You don't have to increase it to the maximum possible values and immediately just one-shot everybody. You could increase it just a little bit. He knows that this is possible because he says the following a little bit later.
Stand closer.
How do we make a damage mod that does like 10% more damage? Like, who does that?
Yeah, I guess nobody would do it, right? Because a 10% more damage increase would be completely useless. Let's check if this is actually the case. Let's assume he is using an assault rifle like the M16A3 or the AEK or any other weapon that uses the standard assault rifle damage model of 25 damage at close range with falls off to 18.4 at 50 meters or greater. At 50 meters or greater, a damage of 18.4 means that it would take 6 bullets to kill an opponent. If we increase the damage just 10%, it would mean that the weapon now does 20.24 damage. This would reduce it from a 6-hit kill to a 5-hit kill. You would win any gunfight at a distance of 50 meters or greater 99.9% of the time, because it would take you literally 1 shot less to kill than any other opponent with the same weapon. Off the top of my head, I can think of 2 instances where he would use this and why it would be beneficial to him to use it. The first one is the most obvious. He is streaming. He wants to be painted in a better picture while he is streaming. To do this, he wants to appear better to his audience. To appear better, you have to kill more people. To kill more people, it is pretty easy to crank up the damage by just 10%. This gives you already a massive advantage, and you will win more gunfights than you would otherwise. This makes you look better on stream. There's more. AustrianFarmer is regularly playing the B-Flag mode. It's a semi-competitive mode in Battlefield 3, in which the players are fighting for the flag B on the map Grand Bazaar. Since its creation, this game mode has been riddled with cheaters. Most people that play this today are cheating, and AustrianFarmer is playing against these people. Some of the most blatant aimbotters and wallhackers can be found in these servers. Exposing these would be out of the scope of this video. To keep up with said cheaters, he has to cheat too. The easiest way to cheat like this without the viewer immediately noticing is by using a damage modifier that just increases the damage a little bit. Using an aimbot or a wallhack would immediately be obvious, so he can't do this. However, if he was playing legitimately, he would have no chance. What he's doing is simply increase the damage just a little. This won't be noticed by the average viewer, because nobody would go out of their way like this and make actual calculations and try to figure out if the damage values make actual sense or not. Most people don't even understand the game mechanics. In fact, AustrianFarmer himself does not understand the game mechanics. This becomes obvious when they are testing the damage values in a server. Listen to this.
It's BF3, man. What?
What are you at?
20
What
HP. 20 HP. You have damage mod.
Pick it up. Pick up the first aid.
Yes.
Confirmed! On stream, live on stream, I exposed you.
He is testing the damage for the 44 Magnum with his friend on a server. They are shooting each other at various distances, and in this case they are shooting themselves at very close distance. It shouldn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that this distance right here is closer than 12.5 meters. In fact, he is standing 14 meters from the flag, and the flag is all the way back there. His friend is clearly closer to him than she is to the flag. It's clearly less than 12.5 meters. She is presumably shooting him in the upper chest here. You can come to the simple conclusion by looking at the damage graph again. The base damage at a distance closer than 12.5 meters is 60. If we now recall the damage modifier charts from earlier, we can see that the weapon damage is increased by 1.25x when a shot to the upper chest is registered. This means that you would take the base damage value of 60 and multiply it with 1.25 to get the final damage. It's 75. He's left on 25. It's just beautiful seeing the math work out like this. It's exactly what you would expect to see if you would shoot each other at a distance of less than 12.5 meters in the upper chest. The result we are seeing is completely backed up by every single bit of data and information that we have available. Our Austrian pro player, however, does not understand any of this. He's probably never looked at the weapon charts and he does not understand how a weapon damage of 75 would come to fruition. Even though his accusation of her cheating is just meant jokingly and he is not serious about it, it still is an argument from ignorance. He has no idea what he's looking at. If you, dear viewer, would put yourself in AustrianFarmer's position and go on and cheat live on stream, You would think that he would have arguments prepared in his defense, in case he does get caught. How about we go ahead and hear some of the arguments that he is making for himself and that he uses in order to defend himself.
Oh, my damage won't fuck, I had it on. Kappa.
Yeah.
Kappa. I don't know, maybe I hit him before, maybe the G3, I don't know the clip. Maybe it's bugged, my Hitreg is bugged. I get sometimes a magnum shot like 2 meters and I get 10 damage assist. Yeah, I don't know. It's my Hitreg, it's the germ and the Austrian internet. I tell you
No,
that.
it has nothing to do with Hitreg.
And clean as fuck. It was bugged, man, there's no other way. It's one clip, man, what do you want for one clip? Maybe it's bugged, maybe I hit him before, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's BF3, man.
Compelling arguments you have there, my friend. I don't think I need to say anything more about this. However, there's one argument in there that is so important and that I want to address in such great detail that it will get its own chapter. One of the arguments made by AustrianFarmer previously why he couldn't be cheating is this one.
Yeah, I don't know. It's my Hitreg, it's the germ and the Austrian internet. I tell you
No,
that.
it has nothing to do with Hitreg.
He is claiming that doing wrong damage values is coming from his Hitreg. Let's see what he means by that, and then let's see why this is bullshit. While doing this, we will not only expose AustrianFarmer, but we will also address all of the other people that have cheated in the past and used a Hitreg fix as their excuse. Let's see what the term Hitreg actually means. From a game's point of view, the term Hitreg can be used synonymously with the term hit detection. Hit detection is performed server-side. If you want to know why, you can go back a chapter. I have explained it before. The server is in the authoritative position. This means that any action that your client is performing that would influence the game state are checked by the server. The fundamental principle of server authoritative netcoding systems is that the client is never trusted, and that every action the client performs is checked on the server. As we saw in the previous chapter with the Battlefield 1 example, hit detection and the damage calculation behind it is also done server-side. Even though I shouldn't have taken damage because there was nothing in the way for me, I did take damage from an explosion that didn't even happen on my screen. That is because the server is in the authoritative position, and it has full control over what is happening to you. It also has full control over the hit detection and over the damage that's being dealt. This alone is already evidence enough that a Hitreg improvement program, whatever that might be, can't exist, because it would need to run server-side on the DICE server. Yeah, good luck with that. However, let's not stop here quite yet, and let's hammer this Hitreg fix idiocy home. If we ask Google of a Battlefield 3 Hitreg fix, we get over 13,000 results. The vast majority of those are threads on forums like Reddit or the EA forum complaining about how Battlefield 3's Hitreg is terrible and should be improved. Some of these try to explain how the Battlefield 3 Hitreg works, some with more and some with less accuracy. In most of these forum threads, people are explaining that you can improve the Hitreg client-side. The vast majority of those people that are convinced that you can improve the Hitreg client-side are using a program called TCP Optimizer. This program and its derivatives are actual, real programs. They are legitimate and they have a purpose. However, they can never, under any circumstance, influence the hit detection in any game that is not purely based on a client-sided hit detection, which Battlefield isn't. There's more. There are different types of network protocols, and two of these are TCP and UDP. Let's compare these two and then see which one of these two Battlefield and other multiplayer online games are using. TCP is short for Transmission Control Protocol, and it is an internet protocol that is oriented on security and on reliability. The TCP network protocol incorporates mechanisms with which lost packets can be recovered. It has advanced mechanisms of error checking, it has mechanisms for acknowledging that a packet has been received, and so on. All of this is to ensure that data is actually arriving and that it will never be lost. It is completely focused on reliability and therefore is used by critical applications. This, however, comes with a massive downside. It is incredibly slow. TCP is hardly a viable option for real-time applications.
For real-time applications that require a transmission to be as fast as possible, we use the UDP protocol. UDP is short for User Datagram Protocol, and in contrast to the TCP protocol, it does not come with any error correction mechanisms. It is unsecure, but it has a real big upside. It's incredibly fast. The fact that it is this fast makes it the go-to choice for game developers to incorporate UDP as their network protocol of choice. It is used in virtually every single multiplayer game that you will find today. This includes Battlefield. If you don't believe me or don't want to take my word for it, you can test this for yourself. Install a program called Wireshark, which can capture the packets sent by any application through your Ethernet connection. Then capture a little bit while you are playing Battlefield and then look at the data that Battlefield 3 has sent. You will see that it is UDP. The attentive viewer will already have spotted the problem. A program called TCP Optimizer is optimizing connection variables for the TCP protocol. It cannot and doesn't have an impact on applications that use the UDP protocol, such as Battlefield 3. Don't get me wrong, the TCP optimizer is a legitimate tool that can be used under certain circumstances. However, using it for the purpose of improving the hit detection in Battlefield or any other shooter game is complete bollocks, and nobody should believe it. There's one more Hitreg fix though that is not relying on changing network variables. It's pretty simple. It's a cheat program and people disguise it as a Hitreg fix. There have been multiple instances in the past where people would not simply just distribute the TCP optimizer and its derivatives, but they would cook up their own programs and then sell them for money. One such case is the one of Raven Crazy, as its YouTube channel is called. He was developing his own cheat program and he was selling it for money. He was disguising it as a Hitreg fix and he even used it himself. This is evident by some of his videos being uploaded with Hitreg fix in the title, which are obviously cheated. I think even the most critical thinking person would agree that this gameplay that you are seeing right here is definitely cheated. He must have gotten so many inquiries about his cheat software that he was selling that he at one time uploaded a video to his YouTube channel instructing them to add his Hitreg fix program to the exclusions in Windows Defender. Isn't it funny that a program that would allegedly only change some network variables in the network stack of Windows was needed to be put on the Windows Defender exclusion list? I wonder why that would be. After all this program was allegedly doing was change some Windows settings. The information about the allegedly changed settings is readily available, and Microsoft provides them themselves on their TechNet website. Any program that wants to change TCP settings can do so without requiring to be excluded from Windows Defender. If I download TCP Optimizer, I don't need to change anything in the Windows Defender settings there. I wonder why this would be. I also wonder why Raven has conveniently took this video down again. I know why. It is a cheat program, and a cheat program is usually flagged by Windows Defender as a malicious tool. This is what got Forsaken caught in Counter-Strike Global Offensive. If you press these people about it and ask them why they are better than every pro player that has ever touched this game, they will say they are just simply talented and they have a Hitreg fix. What they are saying is that they are cheating. The previous facts that the Battlefield 3 hit detection system is server authoritative and that TCP and UDP protocols have nothing to do with one each other and that Battlefield 3 is using the UDP protocol should leave you at only one possible conclusion. A Hitreg fix program is not possible, and anyone that claims that is using it is using a cheat program. Guess who is not making an exception to this rule?
My Hitreg, it's the term at the Austrian internet and clean as fuck.
Wrong.
Let's now start with the fun part of this video. AustrianFarmer is claiming the following.
It's one clip, man. What do you want for one clip?
Indeed, so far we have only seen one clip. And while this one clip is already more than proof enough that a cheat program must have been used, as I've explained before, it can't be explained by anything else other than a damage modifier, we will still pile on more and more evidence right now. For the first clip that we are now taking a look at, I recommend you to use headphones, because it is important that we focus ourselves on the audio aspect of this clip too. Also, it will be pretty long. I will explain everything about this clip in great detail after I've shown it. Here's the clip.
We have neutralized the objective. We have taken the objective. Here's your med kit.
Let's go over this step by step and then make you familiar with what is happening. First, the game mode they are playing is B-Flag. I've explained B-Flag before. People in both teams fight for the flag B on the map Grand Bazaar. It has specific map limits, and players can't cross these map limits. Flanks are not allowed. For this reason, we can already exclude that a teammate of AustrianFarmer was behind the opponent and damaged him from behind. The second aspect I want to focus your attention on is why the clip is so long. As we can see at the very start of the clip, a player named Hasbula is getting spawn killed in a room that is commonly referred by us as small spawn. This is where the headset is important and the audio comes into play. After the player has been spawn killed, there is no more gunfire on the entire map. The next weapon that is being fired on the map is AustrianFarmer's Magnum. This can only mean one thing. The player that just has been spawn killed is respawned and is now approaching the flag again. As we all know, a player respawns with 100% HP. As there was no further gunfire between the spawn kill and the Magnum kill, it can be ruled out that the opponent was left on low HP. What you can obviously do right now is determine the distance between AustrianFarmer and the opponent again. However, let's see if we can spare ourselves some of the math involved. For this purpose, I want to shift your attention back to the damage plate from the 44 Magnum and to the damage multipliers. We know from the kill feed that the kill against the player Hasbula could not have been a headshot, because otherwise it would show the headshot symbol. It clearly doesn't. He also doesn't get awarded 10 points for a headshot bonus. Flagge verteidigt means flag defended, Gegner eliminiert means enemy killed, and Flagge erobert means flag captured. There's no mention of a headshot here. Let us now calculate the maximum possible amount of damage we can do at any given distance with the 44 Magnum without doing a headshot. As we can see from the damage fall-off plate down below, we can do a maximum amount of damage of 60, at a close distance up to 12.5 meters. Everything else after this falls off, and it will not deal more damage the further away you are. That would be stupid. So let's take 60 as our base damage value. We are not done there though, however. Above the damage fall-off plate, we can see the damage multipliers. Depending on where the shots are landing on the opponent, the weapon does more or less damage. In this case, there are 4 different hitbox zones: headshots, upper chest shots, lower chest shots, and leg shots. The possibility of a headshot we have already ruled out, as you have seen before. This leaves us with only 3 more possible hitbox zones which could have been hit here: the upper chest, the lower chest, and the legs. The alert among you might already have noticed that this isn't going to end well. Let's assume that the maximum amount of base damage, 60, is done and that the opponent is hit in the upper chest. This means that we need to take the base damage, 60, and multiply it with 1.25. 60 times 1.25 is 75. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what 60 times 1 is, and 60 times 0.91 can never be more than 60. It's 54.6. Unless you want to argue that the numerical value of 75 is greater than 100, the facts presented inexorably lead us to only one possible conclusion. A one-shot kill with the 44 Magnum without doing a headshot at any given distance is completely impossible. As you can see, we can spare ourselves some math and triangulation. We do not need to know the distance between AustrianFarmer and the opponent. It doesn't matter if AustrianFarmer could tear the opponent's asshole open because he is that close. It doesn't matter if the opponent is in the stratosphere or on the moon. It will never be possible that the 44 Magnum is dealing a one-shot kill without a headshot at any distance. It's simply impossible, and therefore we can conclude that this clip must be cheated. If you look through his clips and through his past broadcasts, you can find many of those. Here are a few more examples.
Wow.
Now that we've seen enough clips from the 44 Magnum, let's look at some other weapons. The M16A3.
Oh, my bad. Fuck.
Here's your first aid.
This clip is also this long for a purpose. As you can see, AustrianFarmer is playing B flag again. His team has just been wiped out, but they still hold the flag. This means that he can still spawn on the flag. He's spawning in a room that we commonly refer to as Big Spawn. The opponents obviously know that there are only 2 possible spawn points on the flag B, and therefore he is getting held. First, let's consider if a friendly could have shot at the enemy and therefore gotten a kill assist, which in fact would reduce the amount of damage needed for AustrianFarmer to kill him. As I said before, AustrianFarmer is playing B flag, and both of his teammates are dead. There are no more people on the server and there can't be any flanks on the opponent. Nobody could have damaged him. Next, let's look at the amount of damage that the M16 is supposed to do. As we can clearly see from the clip, AustrianFarmer is only getting 1 singular hit marker. This means that he has inflicted 100 damage or more with 1 singular bullet. Let's look at the M16 damage blade and see if this is possible or not. Right off the bat, we can immediately tell that the maximum damage the M16 can do at any given distance is 25. The maximum damage of 25 will be dealt at up to a distance of 10 meters. Anything further than that will inflict less damage. The damage drops off all the way to 18.4 at a distance at 50 meters or greater. Now let's look at the possible damage modifiers again. Up until now we have always used the second column, because the 44 Magnum is classified as a revolver. However, the M16A3 is a standard assault rifle. It's not a revolver. It's also not a sniper and also not a shotgun. It's especially not an M98B. This means that the first column is applied for weapons like the M16A3 and every other assault rifle too. Right off the bat, this contains some very important information. Let's first calculate the maximum possible damage at any given distance and on any hitbox zone. The maximum damage at close distance up to 10 meters is 25, and the highest multiplier is 2x for a headshot. This means that the maximum possible damage that can be done with the M16A3 in 1 singular bullet is 50. At this point I want to remind you, dear viewer, that the kill that AustrianFarmer got on the opponent wasn't a headshot. It can clearly be seen in the kill feed. With that out of the way, let's discuss the other options. He can also have hit him in the upper chest, the lower chest and the legs. However, hitting someone in the upper chest does not modify the damage at all. It stays at the base damage, and the maximum base damage that we can do at any given distance with the M16A3 is 25. This means that even if he hit him in the upper chest, it would still have done 25 with 1 singular bullet. The exact same is true for the lower chest. I don't think we need to talk about the leg shots. Yes, I hear you. The opponent has just been in a gunfight, and they could have taken damage from the gunfight before. As the opponent didn't respawn, he might still be on low HP from the gunfight, right?
Wrong.
Let's start this clip a little bit earlier. Here is the last point where the enemy was in a gunfight. In the bottom right you can see the timer. It's running until the next gunfight is happening with AustrianFarmer. As you will see, the next engagement will take place 11.4 seconds after the last engagement with another opponent has taken place. Let's give the enemy time to position himself from where his last engagement was in this door frame. Let's round the time down to a nice round 10 seconds. As sim.gg is telling us, the health regeneration only starts after 16 seconds after taking damage. It could therefore be feasible that the opponent was left on anything lower than 25 HP from the last engagement, as he couldn't have time to heal up yet. In order for him to heal up, it would take a medkit to be placed in his vicinity. Let's look at the clip again and see if we can spot it. And sure enough, here it is. This means that the opponent would have healed up in the time that he was waiting for AustrianFarmer to respawn. Let's see how fast he healed up. Sim.gg is pretty clear about this. The health is regenerating with a rate of 10 HP per second if we are standing close to a medkit. Let's presume that the opponent was actually left on 1 HP from the last engagement. It doesn't take a genius to figure out that an enemy that is healing at 10 HP per second for 10 seconds is left on 100 HP. We arrive at the same conclusion as with the 44 Magnum. Unless you are a lunatic and want to argue that 25 is a greater value than 100, we are left with only one possible explanation. AustrianFarmer is cheating and is using a damage hack.
As you can probably tell by this time, I take competitive integrity very seriously. Battlefield 3 is probably somewhere at the end of its life cycle. It might be shut down any day now. After all, they already shut it down on the consoles. The last few days remaining on this game, I want to be as good as they can possibly be. The game deserves it, as it is one of the best games that has ever been produced. For this reason, I decided to make this game a better place by getting cheaters banned. This is the only reason that I made the first video, which is still unlisted, and it will remain so. I was compiling the evidence into one video, in order to share it with the admins. What I have shown you in chapter 1 from this video is exactly the same what was shown in my original unlisted video. Any server administrator worth its salt, who is actually trying to keep his server free from cheating shit, would have immediately taken action. But as we are sadly in the realms of Battlefield admins, they didn't do nothing. The name in the example that I'm showing right now will be blurred out, because this is not a name and shame video. Apart from the subject himself, AustrianFarmer, no names shall be named. I can assure you with 100% certainty that he is still playing to this day on the very same servers that I have contacted the admins of. Although I won't name the server and the admins in this video, it won't take a rocket scientist to figure out which server is meant. He is still playing on 2 of the servers that I have already messaged the admins for. For a third server I have also contacted the admins, but he hasn't played on that server on his stream yet. I therefore don't know if he gotten banned there too, or if he can still play it. If I had a good guess, I would say he is still not banned. Another point of criticism that I can already foresee is that I could have messaged AustrianFarmer in private and tried to resolve the issue like that. However, I don't see any reason to do this. Someone in his friend's circle must have told him that there were allegations brought up against him. He decided to discuss these allegations live on his stream. He was in a server waiting for a B-flag match to start when he randomly decided to bring this topic up.
Oh, my damage won't fuck, I had it on. Kappa.
Yeah.
Kappa.
At that point, I didn't make my findings public yet. All I did was compile the video and send it to a few select people. It was not public at this point. He himself decided to make it public by talking about it on his stream. While doing that stream and while discussing the allegations, all he could say was, oh, it's BF3, or it's a bug, or anything like that, as I've shown before. At no point in his stream he was showing any form of regret. He wasn't sorry in the slightest. And he was probably even proud of what he did. He was given one opportunity after the other. All of this just to explain why the weapon damage is deviating by such a drastic amount from what is being expected. Or to just simply apologize for what he's done and just move on with it. However, none of this has come to fruition, and he was neither coming up with an explanation for the vastly wrong damage numbers, nor did he utter an apology. An apology not to me, but to all of his viewers and subscribers that trusted him to be legit. What he has instead done is just simply blare all of the same bullshit in his microphone over and over again.
I don't know, maybe I hit him before, maybe the G3, I don't know the clip. Maybe it's bugged, my Hitreg is bugged. Yeah, I don't know. It's my Hitreg, it's the germ and the Austrian internet, I tell you
No,
that.
it has nothing to do with Hitreg.
And clean as fuck. It was bugged, man, there's no other way. Maybe it's bugged, maybe I hit him before, I don't know. I don't know, man. It's BF3, man.
And together with this, he was clowning on me and my allegations. This was the point where I decided to make all of this public and make a video about it. If he would have never discussed it live on his stream in front of his audience, I would have never thought about making a public video about it like this. After all, I have already messaged the responsible admins and they have not taken action. This video will not change their mind and it will not get him banned. However, this is serving as redemption for me because I was being ridiculed live in front of his audience. As with the cheating, the ridiculing of myself and my allegations went on in another stream of his, on the next day. Conveniently for him, he has taken the VOD down, so I couldn't access this anymore. Another thing that I want to bring to your attention, dear viewer, are the other clips that I have used to prove that he's cheating in this video. This one here. This one, And also this one, all happened after he was made aware of the allegations. At this point, he knew that he was being exposed and that someone was catching on to his bullshit. However, he didn't decide to simply stop cheating and just come clean with it, but he went on to ridicule me on his stream and then a stream later just continue to cheat. This behavior is nothing short of completely egregious. It doesn't stop there, sadly. There's still more. Not only are admins involved in this debacle, but also people that seemed to me to be innocent bystanders. Originally, I planned on fully exposing them for not taking a clear stance against cheaters, but rather siding with them. However, when I decided to do this, I wasn't really in a clear state of mind, and I've just experienced stuff before. Let's keep it that way to not reveal any details about the person in question. I took a few days to calm down a bit and to think about this more clearly. When I had my delicious mac and cheese for dinner today, I came up with the idea to include a section in this video, but to leave the name out of it. The person in question will know right now that they are being addressed. There's no need to name names. Most of what you are about to hear I've probably already told you in written form. However, for the sake of completeness, I still wanted to include this in this video. As you might know, I have come in contact with you by pure chance, and I didn't even know that you were affiliated with AustrianFarmer. The exposed video against him was long planned before, and it didn't have anything to do with you. Obviously. However, after I've learned that you are affiliated with him, I thought it would be a good idea to let you know that he is probably cheating. What has unfolded in the next couple of days has initially made me think about you as a great person that values integrity and honesty. However, what has rather become clear to me over the last couple of times that you have interacted with him is that you are siding with him, which I think is just simply sad. You are valuing the friendship more than competitive integrity. And if that is what you want to go for, then by all means go ahead and do it. I'm not judging you for it. For me, however, taking a firm stance against cheating and for competitive integrity is always more valuable than a friendship. For this reason, I don't think our values align. If you do, however, decide one day to change your opinion and to side against cheating, I am happily receiving your message. Contrary to what you originally thought, I'm not mad at you and I'm also not upset with you. I'm simply disappointed. So, here we are. We have reached the end of this video. This piece took me a long time to make, longer than I want to admit it. I also wasn't really looking forward to making this video. I think it's just a shame that our community has to do stuff like this. This should be firmly in the hands of the publisher or the game developer. They should be responsible for getting cheating trash banned, not the players, not the community, and certainly not admins. Let's look at it from a different angle. What if I've never watched his stream and I would have never noticed that his damage value make no sense whatsoever? I have never seen any other viewer of his question him about it. He would likely never be caught, and this is a massive problem. Sadly, in today's day and age, hard work and dedication is worthless, as people will always find a way around it. Cheating has sadly become so extremely prevalent today. Gen Z trash can't be asked to actually put time and effort into a game they want to be good at. The game developers, on the other hand, don't really care about it, because as long as their game has an in-game store and the skins and all of the other cosmetics are being sold, they are happy with it. It doesn't matter if your experience in the game is total garbage. As long as you buy their shiny new skins, they are happy. The best example of this happening, right as we speak, is Counter-Strike 2. Over the last couple of days I've played a little bit of Counter-Strike 2 here and there. And every single game we played, we had a rage aimbotter in the enemy team. However, there's no incentive for the developer to actually do something. The skins are getting sold anyway. And with their shiny new VR pass for the major, the money rain will start any moment at the Valve headquarters. We as players actually have more control over all of this than you might think. If we let the developers know that we are not putting up with their bullshit and that we are not happy with having to form our own communities in order to get rid of cheaters,
We can simply force them to make a better game next time. All it takes is to not pre-order the games and to not buy skins and cosmetic in their store. Do not give these fraudulent developers any money, and stuff like this will have to change in the future. Force the developers to make a good product before you reward them with your money. That's all you can do, apart from hoping that this will improve in the future. I hope that I will never have to make such a video like this again. Not only for my viewers' sake, it must have been a torture listening to my terrible English for 1 hour, but also for me. I'm just simply tired and fed up with the amount of cheaters that are everywhere. It seems impossible these days that you can enjoy a game for more than a few hours at a time without encountering a single cheater. Let's all hope that this will change in the future, and let's contribute to it by not giving fraudulent developers and publishers our money. If you have made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you for watching. Thank you for enduring and torturing yourself with my horrible English for over an hour. This video was a lot of work, and it took me weeks to make. However, I will not monetize it. On the one hand, I can't even do it because my channel is too small, but on the other hand, I also don't want to gain anything from this video. By making and uploading this, I have already gained everything that I wanted. My personal redemption. I want to thank all of you again for watching, and I wish all of you a good day. Later.